Hour. The Senate has passed a bill to reopen the government after the longest shutdown in U.S. history. We'll discuss this and more on today's Top Stories. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also be joined by Dr. Sarah Nadeem, an endocrinologist and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, who will discuss weight loss drugs and President Trump's plan to lower the cost.
Plus, we'll also chat with local jazz drummer Graeme, who will tell us all about the opening of Houston's new jazz club, Doc's Houston.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
All this and more here on Hello Houston, right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh.
This land is your land.
Veterans Day. As events commemorate the occasion across the country, one of the most prominent is the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. Keeping with an annual tradition, President Trump is addressing an audience gathered to pay tribute to all who have worn a military uniform. The impact of a federal government shutdown continues. Even though the Senate voted 60-40 to end it, the House of Representatives still needs to pass the measure, and President Trump needs to sign it. But the federal government could open within days. Here's NPR's Sam Greenglass.
The Senate passed a stopgap funding bill lasting through January 30th after a more than month-long impasse that resulted in missed paychecks for federal workers, delayed food assistance, and air travel disruptions. The package includes a trio of regular appropriations bills funding some parts of the government through next September, as well as language to reverse the shutdown firings of federal employees and ensure that federal workers get back pay. But the deal does not include an extension of expiring subsidies for health insurance premiums. Democrats have been promised a Senate vote on legislation to address the healthcare subsidies, but that does not guarantee it'll pass or get a vote in the House. Sam Greenglass, NPR News, Washington.
Romania, a member of NATO, is accusing Russia of another incursion into Romanian airspace. The defense ministry says it found drone fragments on its soil following Russia's overnight attack on Ukraine's Danube river ports. The government says the fragments landed in an uninhabited area. NATO member Poland also protested a similar Russian drone incursion of its territory 2 months ago. Poland and Romania are now deploying the new American MEROP system to identify and counter drones. Yemen's Houthi rebels have sent a letter to Gaza's Hamas. The Houthis indicate they've halted their attacks on Israel and on Red Sea shipping routes. That's as long as a shaky ceasefire holds in Gaza. NPR's Lauren Frere reports from Tel Aviv.
Hamas's armed wing has published a letter online that it says it received from the Houthis. In it, the rebels say they're closely monitoring developments and threaten to return to military operations if the, quote, enemy, Israel, resumes its, quote, aggression against Gaza. The letter signed by the Houthi military's chief of staff. During the Gaza war, Houthi attacks sank ships, killed mariners, and disrupted global supply routes through the Red Sea and Suez Canal. The U.S. and Israel have bombed Houthi targets in Yemen in response. But the Houthis have not claimed responsibility for any attacks in more than a month. This letter is their clearest indication yet that the pause is in coordination with the Gaza ceasefire. Lauren Frere, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow was up nearly 300 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The families of 7 campers and 2 counselors who died during the devastating July 4th floods this summer have filed lawsuits against Camp Mystic and its owners. 27 girls and counselors died that night. In total, 3 lawsuits have been filed. They each allege gross negligence and are seeking more than $1 million in damages. The suits claim that the camp chose to house the girls in flood-prone areas, despite the risk, to avoid the cost of relocating the cabins. It also alleges that there wasn't a viable evacuation plan. This is the first legal action taken by victims' families against the camp since the tragedy occurred. The 99-year-old camp is located in Kerr County. In total, over 136 people died in the Hill Country from those floods. At least 18 were from the Houston area. Governor Abbott has ordered an investigation into Texas Southern University over allegations of financial mismanagement. News 88.7's Rob Salinas has details.
The order comes after State Auditor Lisa Collier detailed incidents across several areas. She says the university has not kept up with physical inventories of its assets. The preliminary report also finds hundreds of invoices awarded prior to receiving approval and many invoices awarded to vendors with expired contracts. TSU is also accused of being late with financial reporting for at least the past 2 fiscal years. The university says many of those issues have already been addressed and will meet with Collier later this week to discuss the audit. I'm Rob Salinas, News 88.7.
The Texas education nonprofit Children at Risk says the state schools are improving despite unexpected challenges. The organization released its annual rankings Monday based on student performance, growth, and college readiness. CEO Bob Sanborn says more schools earned A's and B's even when school budgets were frozen by lawmakers.
In spite of all that, we see improvement happening. And just imagine what could happen if our public schools were funded at levels that are happening in other states.
Children at Risk also says more schools earned gold ribbon honors this year compared to last. Those are A and B rated schools with a high percentage of low-income students. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for dedicated and forward-thinking individuals to join their growing team. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Ernie will hopefully be back tomorrow, but welcome to Hello Houston.
Welcome to Hello Houston on a frigid day.
It's chilly, Frank. What's
It was
going
really
on
cold.
out there?
I know. Well, our record for today, I just looked, was 32 back in 1977 and dropped at Bush Intercontinental to 35.
Okay.
So not a record morning, but I mean, I think Conroe was at 31 this morning. I know. We're looking at freezing temperatures on this Veterans Day. So
Veterans Day. Happy veterans to those who have served. We appreciate all the things that you do for our country.
Oh, absolutely. And people confuse it. It's not like Memorial Day, which is for those who we remember and past.
Honor.
But it's for everyone, whoever served.
Whoever served. You know, I ran the Marine Corps Marathon
last year
in Washington, D.C., and it was an incredible experience. I would say it might have been that was a top 5 core life highlight. And I remember running, and it's the Marines, they're everywhere, right? And they're all in their uniforms, and they're passing out waters. I mean, it's an extremely organized event, marathon. And I was getting my water, mile 17 or something, and they were saying, "Thank you for supporting the Marines, ma'am." And I'm just crying like, "No, thank you for your service." I was like, "No, don't think." They were all so just kind and respectful, and there was just so much pride on display during that event, the Marine Corps Marathon. If you're a runner, highly recommend.
Yep.
And again, I will never remember. I was just crying, like, "Thank you so much." And it really is an emotional. They have a blue mile, which is a couple of miles, and it is families that post a picture of their soldier that was a fallen soldier, and it is just an incredible experience, and I have just a great respect for those who served. It was very moving.
Marines, Army, Navy.
Everyone. All that.
Air Force, my dad.
I'm clearing my throat for you.
Ernie's calling out sick, and we're the ones sick.
We're here.
My cold is over, because you know what they say. If you treat a cold, it lasts 7 days. If you don't treat it, it lasts a week. I was going to say, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I say 3 dads. My dad that raised me was in the Air Force. He was a lieutenant. And my biological father was also in the Air Force. He was one of the early hurricane hunters. How about that? I know.
Really?
When they triangulated storms, they would fly 3 planes, and they wouldn't fly into the storm. They would fly around it. And he was the guy in the back with the telegraph that would send the information out. How about that?
That's so interesting.
And then my stepfather, who married my biological mother, was also in the Air Force. So Air Force.
Yeah.
And a salute to the Coast Guard. People think, wait, the Coast
Yes.
Guard? Yes, the Coast Guard, absolutely
Absolutely.
part of our military.
Yeah.
And do a great job defending our shores and do a
Absolutely.
lot for us.
They
So
do a lot
happy
for us.
Veterans Day to all of you out there.
Happy
It is a beautiful
Veterans
day.
and it is beautiful out.
Our YouTubers are already noticing that. That's the first thing they said.
What'd they tell us?
Beautiful day. Beautiful day. Happy Veterans Day. Beautiful day.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah. And then they're talking about their jackets and their coats. You look nice in your sweater.
Thank you.
The little
Well,
pearl
yes,
accents.
Little pearl accents. Yesterday I was chilly. I was chilly all
Oh.
day, and that worries me because I feel like, and I think there's a lot going around right now, and I don't necessarily feel like I have a cold, but I just don't feel 100%.
Is it goldenrods? Is that the name of them? They're kind of like cedar fever, and they're really beautiful.
Yes.
But boy, that wind, especially with that front we had, that wind will stir those up right now,
Yep.
and it'll get you. So you might have a cold, you might have allergies. Seems like every time I go to a party, someone that has sniffles will say, "Oh, it's only allergies," and you know
Right.
what? Bull. It's a cold.
You have a cold.
You just wanted to go to the party.
You just want to. Well, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But we have a lot coming up on.
We really do, and
today's
everyone's in
show.
studio today. So
We have a packed house.
yeah, it's going to be fun.
What do we have coming up, Frank?
Well, Sarah Nadeem is an endocrinologist and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, and she's going to join us to talk about these weight loss drugs, all the GLP-1s, and that you hear Wegovy, Mounjaro.
Yes, which I think is going to be
Ozempics.
a fascinating conversation because I think it came out right now. It's a lot on everybody's mind because it's weight loss. But these have been around for a very long time.
Right,
and they have been-
diabetics absolutely have depended on them.
So-
That's, I think, where they discovered.
Yes.
But we'll find out. But
We're
I think
gonna talk to
diabetics were
her.
using them, and they were like, hey, we're losing weight as well. And they thought, this could have another use.
Right.
So anyway, we'll hear about her take on that. And of course, you may have heard that President Trump has a plan to lower those costs.
Right, so we're
Will
gonna
that really
discuss
work?
with her.
Which is kind of crazy in a way because there's all this talk about premiums doubling.
I know.
But we're going to lower the price of the weight loss drug, so you can be unhealthy but really skinny. I mean, what's
Yeah.
going on here?
Right.
Anyway, she's going to be in house. A lot of other folks too that we will
Yes.
get to. But go ahead, let's jump in.
Yep. The U.S. Senate has passed a bill to end the government shutdown, sending it to the House. This comes on the 41st day of a record-long government shutdown. The Senate voted 60-40 to approve a continuing resolution to reopen the government. The measure would fund much of the government through January 30th and provide funding for some agencies through the end of next September. But before the shutdown can actually end, the U.S. House of Representatives must also pass the legislation, which is not guaranteed before President Donald Trump can sign it into law. 7 Democrats and 1 independent senator voted with nearly every Senate Republican to approve the stopgap funding bill. After a more than month-long impasse resulting in missed paychecks for millions of federal workers, delayed food assistance benefits, and air travel disruptions. What do you think of the shutdown coming to an end? Did the Democrats cave? Or did their fight get their point across? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call, send us a text, 713-440-8870.
I don't know what to make of this, but of the 8 Democrats that voted with the Republicans, 2 of them are retiring, and the other 6 are not up for election next year. So by the time they are up for election, everyone will have forgotten this.
Yes, Brandon
So
Rottinghouse noted that. We forget very quickly.
So there was very little political risk from these 8, which tells me that because of that, maybe there were other Democrats who were saying, you know what, I can't vote for this. I'm running next year.
Right.
Or, this is my district has too much at stake here. And politically, I would like to get this over with and get the thing going again and get the government back to normal. But I can't do it. But you can. You're not running again. Right. So you need to take the heat for the party. Now, I'm making this up as I go along. I don't really know if that's what happened. But it was kind of like, okay.
Well, I think that's a very interesting point, right? That's a nuance that a lot of people would not recognize. They say, well, do these people just cave and go against their party? But no, it is.
Maybe they felt pressure from other Democrats who wanted to cave but couldn't politically. But you can because you're not coming back. So you need to go and do this. And they said, well, you know what? Okay, I'll take one for the team.
Right.
Because they did, because it was sudden. It was like, this isn't going to shut down. We're going to be through the end of the year. It's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, these 8 will come with you. And coincidentally, none of these 8 have any political risk involved. So
I think that's a very valid point, and I'm naturally an optimistic. So I would like
I'm
to
naturally a cynic.
right. So I think that we're moving in the right direction. But I think for me, what I'm looking at the end of the day, my question is, what did the shutdown achieve? And I think that we saw that, Democrats had some big wins at the polls, that we just had some, they were moving in that direction where they were getting enough, publicity or getting enough attention, garnering that public support. And then we saw that a lot of people are saying that they caved.
Well, we'll find out. It depends on these premiums and really what happens in December, because there was this vague promise that the Republicans, although Mike Johnson said he's not going to bring it up, that they would revisit this whole idea of Obamacare premiums that have been cut off. So if they go to the polls in 2026 or even early polls, and they start to see the Democrats really taking over, they're going to have to revisit this because, as you've said, people vote with their wallet.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely they do. And this is a particular case. Now, back to your original point, did this do any good? If you were one of the people who was not getting paid and still having to work, you would be more like putting food on the table versus premiums doubling for some people. You know what? Your kids are hungry. Mm-hmm. They have whatever that you've promised them coming up, and you have to take care of your family first. Yeah. And other people that have issues, they come second. Right. So I guess there was that. And of course, air traffic. And
this is going to linger. This shutdown is not just in a snap of the fingers going to go away.
And they all fly out of DCA, out of Reagan National. And they're the ones they're going, well, wait a minute, what are we going to do?
Who I think this looks really bad on is Chuck Schumer.
He's going to take the heat, certainly.
The Senate minority leader, I think, is going to take the heat on this.
Well, you want to be in charge, you're in charge.
Yeah.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yep. 713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston. You can join us now.
On this Veterans Day, which the date is?
Today is November 11th, 2025.
11/11. Did you know it's known also as Singles Day? I think it started in China because 11.11. So it's like, if you're single, you're a one, right? Yeah. Who was it? Elaine Boozler? Elaine, party of one. Elaine, party of one. She said, that's so depressing.
Yeah.
But if you're single out there, I hope you have a nice day.
Yes.
It can be tough being single. By the way, I want to tell you this. I spoke to a group last night.
Okay.
For cancer survivors, right? And supporters. And anyway, it was at a very large church, one of the largest in town.
They let you into church?
I looked everywhere for the 10 Commandments. I couldn't find them anywhere. I did. I was like, well, where do they put them? Are they on the walls? Are they in the church? Are they in the narthex? Are they in the atriums? Where are they? Where are those 10 Commandments? Well, no, they're in the 3rd grade classroom is where they are. Okay, I'm just going to say that and I'll get off of it.
713-440-8870. Barbara from Magnolia is on the line. Barbara, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
I had a comment. A couple of comments. One is that I think that the Democrats had a really tough choice to make. Yeah. Because I think that they did accomplish some things, but the question is, did they accomplish enough?
Right.
I know that they say that they are going to continue to fight. And when they feel like that, when people start getting those premium notices and it actually becomes reality, and then they bring it up again, that they'll have, more force behind the issue and everything.
Yep. That's going to give them some leverage for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other comment that I wanted to make is that it takes two to negotiate. Mm-hmm. And I think in all of the previous, pre-Trump shutdowns, whichever side of Congress is in the minority and the president both want to bring things to an end because they see suffering and they see wasted money and they see, all of the downsides to it. I think in this particular shutdown, they only had one side wanting to negotiate because the president doesn't mind people suffering, and he doesn't mind chaos. In fact, he likes chaos.
Seems to.
And so he had no incentive to try to bring things to an end. So it was the Democrats basically trying to negotiate and nobody on the other side.
Right. He was building a new ballroom and having Gatsby parties.
Thank you, Barbara, for your call. Let's go to Karen from North Houston. Karen, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
I just wanted to say that my daughter is a federal worker, and it's taken our whole family to support her through this. But also, for instance, in the courthouse, in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, the judges, who are the highest paid people, continue to be paid. And every clerk that works for a judge, every person working in the library, every person working there that wasn't under some other kind of outside contract did not get paid. And so the idea that the shutdown does not affect the people who are paid the most is really horrifying to us.
Yeah, it's very unfair. So I guess you're glad they got it fixed, right, Karen? And have good.
We're torn on that. We really are torn on that.
Yeah.
They need to put the Republicans on record as voting to let the price of health insurance go up exponentially for families. They need to get that publicly on record. And maybe this is the way they felt like they could do it. Right. But I don't trust that they care about going on record.
Well, we'll find that out. So, but they definitely need more leverage.
Thank you, Karen. And we stand in solidarity with those federal workers out there that have been working without pay.
We're talking about Veterans Day and the sacrifice of our veterans, but federal workers have made a big sacrifice for us in the last 2 months also.
And they continue to show up.
Yes, they continue to show up. And they're doing their best. That's why we always say be nice to the TSA people at the airport.
Yes.
And your pilots and your flight attendants, they're miserable too.
Yep. Again, 713-440-8870. William from Galveston. William, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We sure can.
Well, I really appreciate the discussion. I think it was good that the senators finally decided to open the government again. I think the closure really served no purpose at all except to make clear the lines of division between the two parties that dominate our politics. And I think that probably I would give those who crossed the aisle to vote for reestablishment some credit that possibly, in addition to the comments that you've already made, they may have been responding to their own constituents, which doesn't happen too often in our federal government these days. We are so divided that standing in opposition and fighting is more important really than serving the Constitution or serving one's constituents or serving the country. And I think that that's the problem that we're up against. It's much deeper than this closure, but it's certainly a beautiful symptom that points us in the direction of what's needed in terms of change. You mentioned Chuck Schumer. I think the fact that the government has been dominated by older people and on both sides of the aisle is probably not doing us a lot of good. And I hope that people will step forward to bring a different perspective to the Congress. Thank you.
We've talked about this, and as Celeste said the other day, common sense. So let's hope that we get some fresh, young voices from people, Republicans and Democrats and independents, and Green Party, who make sense, who will bring common sense back to the table. At the end of the day, what I'm hearing from our listeners, I think, is that there were lines drawn in the sand.
Yeah.
But lines in the sand can get blown away with a good wind. So if they're going to be real lines, they're going to have to be lines that were drawn on the cement and that are really in there, and that the Democrats are willing to stand by and say, this is the line that the Republicans crossed, and this is what they continue to cross. And if we're going to have any leverage, then we're going to have to continue to push that message.
I also think that, that's such a great example, talking about lines. I also think people and many Americans are looking at this and saying, you know what, for so long the lines have been drawn by politicians about me against you. And I think people are now saying, wait a minute.
Sick of it.
I'm done.
I'm done
fighting with my neighbor, but I'm going to actually look at those and hold people.
Well, because it hasn't gotten me any good.
Right.
And what good has being angry gotten anyone? I mean, I don't.
Truly.
It might make somebody feel better for a moment if they're an angry person, But bickering and arguing, and no one, I haven't gotten any checks.
Right.
No, I haven't gotten any benefits. There's a lot of promises that haven't been made.
Definitely know there's zero health benefits.
There's a lot of stress.
Lots of stress.
Yeah.
But coming up on Hello Houston, Dr. Sarah Nadeem, an endocrinologist and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, will join us to discuss weight loss drugs and President Trump's plan to lower the cost. This is News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
On News 88.7. On Fresh Air, you'll hear revelations from well-known actors, like Zach Galifianakis on the story behind his last name.
It's actually shortened, Terry. My real last name is Galifianakisberg. That's an exclusive for your show.
Fresh Air, bringing you some of the biggest names in American culture and some of the most difficult to pronounce. Join us. Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from J.P. Morgan Chase, committed to investing in the people of Texas and supporting access to resources that help foster community and economic growth. More at jpmorganchase.com/communities/Texas.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DePelchin Children's Center, whose annual holiday project aims to fulfill the wish lists of more than 2,000 children in their care. Info on getting involved is at DePelchinHolidayProject.org.
Support comes from the law firm McFarland PLLC, eminent domain attorneys focused exclusively on representing landowners against the government's taking of private property for public use across the state of Texas. More at McFarlandPLLC.com. Support comes from Houston Habitat for Humanity, helping Houston area veterans, seniors, and families access affordable home repairs. Together we build hope. Learn more at HoustonHabitat.org/NPR.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
Last week, President Trump announced his new plan to lower the cost of popular weight loss drugs like Wegovy and Zepbound, making them more affordable for millions of Americans. But there are still questions about how much prices will really drop and who really will benefit from these changes. To help us sort through what this could mean for patients, we're joined by Dr. Sarah Nadeem, an endocrinologist and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Nadeem, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me.
And if you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. Now, Dr. Nadeem, before we jump into the latest on the news side of these weight loss drugs, you are an endocrinologist. Yeah. You're trained in diabetes, endocrinology, and metabolism, right? So you've been working with GLP-1s way before they were being used for weight loss. Mm-hmm. Can you just give us a brief, kind of history on GLP-1s and kind of how they've now become this major new weight loss, I don't know if I want to call it protocol, therapy, I don't know. But yes.
Sure. So you're absolutely right, Celeste. The GLP-1s have been around since about over 20 years or so. So back in 2005, we had the first commercially approved GLP-1, which was called Byetta. It was a twice-a-day injection. And that was the newest diabetes medicine in a while, because for diabetes management, we've had the same old medications for a long time. And this was exciting at that time because this was new. But it was an injection. It was twice a day, and it was expensive.
Was this to treat diabetes 1 or 2?
2. Type 2 diabetes, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then with that, they started working on, once a day, and that was Victoza, which was in 2010. And then they realized it was also causing weight loss, and they studied that more and more. Initially, this was discovered, from a Gila monster. It's a lizard, which can eat 30 to 50 times its weight and, kind of survive on that and stay healthy.
Okay, wait, slow your roll here. Okay, the Gila monster, we've all seen it. It's like on the island or some island or something. Okay, how did the Gila monster play a role in this?
So you see, our bodies do make GLP-1, right? But our bodies make it in the stomach and also some part of the brain, and but it breaks down really quickly in the gut. And so we're seeing it's made in the gut, but it has an effect in the brain, although it's broken down in minutes. So how does that work? So they tried to identify something that's similar to what our body makes, and they found that there was an angler fish, and it was the Gila monster.
Really?
Wow,
yes.
that is fascinating.
It is interesting. It's like kiss a pig.
Right. So, fast forward us to now. So clearly they're seeing that these drugs, or these GLPs are having major effects. How did it go from, I'm a doctor, I'm going to treat diabetes, to now, if you want to look good, you can have it.
Or was it the big farm?
Do you cringe a little bit, Dr. Nadeem?
So, I feel obesity, and I believe obesity is a disease. So a lot of times I felt like obesity was treated like, it's your personal failing, kind of.
You're not disciplined
enough.
enough.
You're not disciplined enough. You should eat better, or you should exercise more. And I've seen so many patients who've been doing that, but their genetics, their lifestyle, it kind of is stacked against them, right? And it's so hard to lose weight. And they discovered that we have kind of like a broken thermostat in people who are overweight or obese. Even if they try really hard, our body actually fights it. They lose some weight and it tries to bring it back up to that temperature, like that thermostat. So these medications really enable us to kind of get to the root of that and fight against that and help them lose the weight and maintain it in a healthy way. But yes, when I see people who really don't need weight loss and are at like a normal, healthy weight, BMI, everything, and it's just like, before summer starts, I'm going to drop a few pounds, and they're getting this, not from their physicians or providers, but over the internet. That is where I feel that may actually be harmful.
Sure. And for so long, we've heard elected officials here in the U.S. talking about obesity and it being an endemic and things like that. Mm-hmm. Do you think GLP-1s, given your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise, knowing that it was being treated for something, we now have seen it come out to be able to treat, like you said, obesity. Mm-hmm. Do you think it is being used in the right way?
I do think in the majority, yes. In fact, I feel like more people should have access to it. So diabetes and obesity are linked together. They're both metabolic disorders, diabetes type 2. And so when they discover that it's helping the sugars but also causing weight loss, that's when then the Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound came out. So I think it's being used in the majority in a good way. Yes, there is a small segment which doesn't need it, who may not benefit from it.
Which you'll always somewhat have, right?
Yes, exactly. With any benefit, right? With the internet, when it came out, there's a lot of good, but there's a little bit of bad as well, right?
Well, and they always say, and it's true, that these GLP-1s should be used with a better diet and exercise.
Absolutely.
And I've been on them for a while, and that is true. And when I do a better job of my eating and my exercising, they work better for me. They basically kind of kill your appetite. I mean, that's sort of the idea.
So how do they work?
Yes. So they work in a couple of different ways. And what they do is they're made in the gut, but they go out, to the nerves in the brain as well. And they act at a region in the brain which makes us feel fuller. So we'll stop eating quicker, right? Because a lot of times if you have obesity, that brain signal is kind of affected and it doesn't tell you to stop when you're full and you kind of overeat. So that signal kind of gets awakened there. And it also acts on the gut, the stomach, the whole small intestine, large intestine. It slows everything down so you feel full. So it's
longer.
Yes, for longer, yeah. It takes a while for food to kind of move down.
It can also take away your desire for alcohol to some degree.
Yes, and that's what's being studied. So alcohol, smoking, any kind of addiction. So the satiety center in our brain is where, we feel good. Like, so some people binge eat because they feel good about it. It's the same thing. So it kind of numbs that, and that's why they're actually studying it in people where, it's been proposed as a cure for people with, alcoholism and other kind of addictions, drug addictions as well.
Right.
Well, let me jump in here because you had mentioned BMI. And I was saying just the other day,
talking about this.
I weigh 204 pounds. And I know this because I went to the doctor the other day, and I was horrified. But anyway, and I'm 5'11".
Yes.
I'm obese. I have a BMI of 27, and so you could imagine that this rule that Trump's coming up with, that you have to be a certain threshold. It's going to be pretty easy to get there. If I'm obese, everybody's obese.
Well, Dr. Nadeem,
except the two of you. Y'all look great.
I'm not going to tell you how much I weigh on the radio. But to Frank's point, I guess my question would then be, President Trump has now said that he is going to be lowering the cost. GLP-1 medications, including Wegovy and Zepbound, currently list price of more $1,000 for a month-long supply. That is very expensive. Under President Trump's deal, that would bring the price down to on average, about $350, and as low as $50 for those who have a copay. You mentioned that you think more people essentially could benefit from this. Do you think this is the right way to go about it through this type of policy? Do you think this is the right way that we can potentially really help Americans become healthier?
So I think that's a nuanced answer. So multifactorial is how we should be addressing the obesity epidemic. And it has gone down, actually. So there was a peak about 2022 where about 39% of U.S. Citizens were obese adults. Now it's gone down to 37%. So it is improving, and it is with the onset of the GLP-1s. So to your question on the BMI is one tool, and it has a lot of faults. It's not a perfect tool because, yes, it only looks at the weight and the height, and that's it. Yeah. But actually, so the Obesity Society is advocating for using more of the waist circumference and other tools, body composition, to get a better idea of, not just the weight.
Well, to Celeste's point, we had a text saying since prices for medications could go down. This says will go down, but I guess they could go down. So will more people get approved for the medication? And right now, insurance companies are very strict
with qualifications.
About the qualifications.
Yes.
So will those be relaxed a little bit?
Yes, so that's the positive on this new policy for sure. Like if Medicare has negotiated this lower price, then, other insurances will be obligated to kind of come down and kind of not be as strict about it, because even if you meet the criteria and you have obesity with complications like sleep apnea and everything, sometimes your insurance company, there are some insurance companies that blanket don't approve obesity medicines. And I think that's discriminatory and it shouldn't be happening.
Right.
So we need to, yes, bringing the cost down is great. Even now, people on certain insurances can get Zepbound for a $25 copay.
Okay.
But that's not everybody, right? And then you can also get certain medications direct from Eli Lilly for less amount, like I think it's about $500.
Yes.
Well, and let me follow up on this because, okay, let's say you get this great deal and you're on Zepbound, and 6 months down the road, it worked. You look great. Your glucose is great. Your cholesterol is great. You feel good. Can the insurance company now say, all right, we're not going to keep paying for this. You now need to come off of it because you no longer qualify?
It shouldn't, but it can, right?
Yeah, right.
So from a medical point of view, it shouldn't, because it's just like a blood pressure pill, right? When
you think it's a chronic condition and we should treat it for life?
Which Absolutely. We did get a YouTube question. Is it true that you snap back to your previous weight when you quit taking GLP-1s?
Which is in line with what I was just saying.
Yep. Right. So not everybody. So the majority of people that have been studied who've come off versus those who've continued on a low-dose maintenance dose will have much of the weight regained. Now, the people who have not regained that weight did make those changes with lifestyle, right? So you have to build more muscle. You have to take more protein. You have to work out. You will lose the weight easily, but if you don't maintain your muscle, you'll be the first one to kind of regain it back. But for the majority of obese patients, I would not want to stop it, because if their blood pressure is good on a blood pressure med, I won't stop the blood pressure med. It's the same thing with obesity, right? You'd go down to the lowest dose, which will maintain them, because obesity, their body is wired that way. And if we take that medicine away, then we're kind of putting them back in the same risks.
So there was even a study that I read about, and I will defer to you as the expert, that it might play some role in helping dementia.
Yes, you were right. You read the right study. They're studying that a lot. It does not have the labeling for it, but yes, and that's where the central action. So the part we understand is it comes from the gut, and it after you eat something, even if you took an IV and your blood glucose went high, your own body's incretins don't release. But this is from the outside, and there is some effect on the brain. It may preserve brain cells. Just the way that it may help preserve the beta cells, which are in the pancreas, which make insulin. So there is that, and it's approved for sleep apnea, separate from weight. And there's probably going to be indications approved soon about addiction as well.
Dr. Nadeem, something that we received an email and something that I've been thinking about also is age. How young do you think that, I understand, I don't remember exactly. We received an email from a lady who asked about young girls looking at this potentially as something
the ones on Botox that are 18.
Lose. Right.
I know, it's crazy.
What are your thoughts on age limits?
So the FDA has approved it for, the youngest is age 12. Okay. But strict criteria. So I think that's where, it's very important that this should still be considered a drug. Right? Yes. Each drug has benefits and side effects. And I think a growing brain also, it hasn't been studied in, younger adolescents. And to use it as Botox or just another kind of makeup. Aesthetic purpose, that's not the purpose of it, right? Because it has a lot of some side effects, and you don't want to kind of have more risk than benefits. Any medicine, any drug, you prescribe it only when you see the good outweighs the harm, right? So in a younger person, and even people with eating disorders, that's where, I think this should be regulated better, because I see it being passed out by med spas, and I don't think that's the responsible way to prescribe it.
I could see someone who has anorexia or bulimia obviously has a body image issue, and this might stave that off and help them before they get to that point.
Yes, in certain situations. So that's where it's nuanced, right? So that's where I feel like an endocrinologist or obesity specialist with a psychiatrist working together. Because there is a little bit of warning that they've seen that semaglutide may increase depression risk as well. So the studies are kind of a little conflicting right now, but that warning is on there. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. Dr. Nadeem, as you sit here, what would you want our listeners to take away and really understand about GLP-1s? I mean, you've said so much wonderful information, but what is there anything that really sticks out to you?
So what I want, the listeners' understanding about GLP-1s is GLP-1s or GIP. They are an excellent new medicine which has shown many benefits. There are some side effects also, but it's not an all or none phenomenon. And if your doctor has advised you to be on a GLP-1, I have patients who, will really benefit from it, but they've read something in the media and they're like, I don't need it. So always have a discussion and realize that, the benefits of GLP-1s, if they are higher for you, you should be on it, but under the close guidance of somebody who's been prescribing this, using this for years, has been trained to do this. And don't buy it off the internet, don't buy it, from another country, because it can harm you if it's not regulated in the proper way. But I think these are fabulous medications for the people who, it's indicated for, people with obesity, sleep apnea, and other disorders.
My nutritionist is who I was seeing at the time is who recommended it for me. And I would think that, like you said, sometimes it takes a psychiatrist to step in. I think if a nutritionist steps in also, it's not just about a medical doctor, but someone who's really studied nutrition that can help guide you to eat properly while you're on these medications. And that is key.
Like a holistic approach to this.
Always. In anything, it's never medicine or nutrition or lifestyle. It's always like nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, and medicine.
Here's a really good question. Can we take this if we're pregnant or breastfeeding? Will it affect the fetus?
Or the newborn?
So no, we do not advise it to be taken when you're pregnant or breastfeeding because it has not been studied in pregnant or breastfeeding patients. But the caveat there is actually women, they can improve their fertility because if you're obese or overweight, you may not be ovulating and be infertile. So it's actually used quite a bit in people to get their weight down, so that improves their fertility. But it should be stopped before you conceive.
What about men? We could be infertile too.
Yes, but I don't think they've seen a direct connection in men. Yes, but with this, yes.
I was just wondering.
Well, obesity in men does cause low testosterone
Right.
and may affect the fertility bit. So yes, it could be
The goal
used.
is to be healthy all the way around.
All the way
Absolutely.
around.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else, Dr. Nadeem? You are just a well of knowledge, and I feel like I want to talk so much more with you about this.
While we're on the subject of diabetes, where does that stand? I have friends that are on it. Some of them can't regulate properly. They have to take shots 4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the hope with people who are suffering from diabetes?
So diabetes, I feel like GLP-1s are, the biggest game changer for people with diabetes. And there's a lot of shift in thought that needs to happen, even with physicians, because you can have a perfect blood glucose and be on 4 shots or 5 shots a day of insulin, but that's not decreasing your risk of heart attack or stroke or even protecting your kidneys. And the GLP-1s like Ozempic and, Mounjaro will decrease your risk of heart attack, stroke, and protect your kidneys. So every single day, I'm switching people or decreasing their insulin and starting them on Ozempic. Because I'd like to give them like a multiple benefit for one, right? It'll decrease your weight, it'll bring your sugars great, and decrease risk of heart attack and stroke. Because we can decrease the sugars down to, perfect with insulin, but most diabetics still have heart attacks and strokes, and that's kind of the serious danger there.
Wow. You are. Thank you so much for all this.
Yes, Dr. Sarah Nadeem is an endocrinologist and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Nadeem, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.
Coming up, we're going to preview the opening of a new jazz club in the heart of Houston. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. We'll be back after the break.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
I'm David Brown, host of Texas Standard. This year we're turning 10, and we're celebrating at St. Arnold Brewing Company in Houston this Friday, November 14th from 5 to 7. Come join us for live music, good food, and great company with friends from Houston Public Media and Texas Standard. Food and beverage from St. Arnold's full menu will be available for purchase. Plus, Shop Local Market will pop up with Houston artists and talented makers. That's this Friday at St. Arnold Brewing Company. Details at houstonpublicmedia.org/TS10.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from the Houston Ballet, presenting Stanton Welch's The Nutcracker. The holiday tradition returns to the Wortham Theater next Friday. Tickets available at houstonballet.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at certaapro.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
This week, Houston's Montrose neighborhood will welcome Doc's Houston, a new jazz venue located inside the historic Tower Theater. Owned and operated by jazz pianist Brent Doc Watkins, this new 11,000 square foot venue, operators say, will be the largest jazz club in the world. I want you to prove that. Doc's will showcase
Right.
live music from talented musicians, a majority of whom will be local Houston-based talent. So to tell us more about the opening of Doc's Houston, please welcome local jazz drummer Graeme Francis, originally from Canada, Florida. He's been down here now getting his degree. You've been here 20 years now?
20 years, yeah.
Well,
more than 20 years.
That makes you a Houstonian.
I'll take it.
Oh, absolutely. So you're one of the bookers at Doc's. Graeme, tell us. So you're a musician?
I am. I'm a drummer, percussionist.
As well as a booker now?
Yeah, I'm the artistic director at the place, so I'm really curating what goes on stage. So if you see a band there, then myself and my colleague Felicia have put that together. There's no shortage of talent here in town. We all know that, but for a long time I think there was a real lack of a place to feature a lot of that talent.
Right.
And so that's one of our priorities, is to make sure that we represent the best and brightest of Houston.
Well, a jazz club has a very unique style. I mean,
Yes.
it's a vibe, right? It's
Yep.
very low key, but it's also very cool. You got to be a cool cat. What is Doc's going to be like if it's the largest?
And it's 11,000 square foot venue.
If it's a
big. It's funny. I think it doesn't feel big anymore when I'm in there. I mean, I'm there all the time, obviously, but playing on the stage, there is a sense of intimacy, and that comes with lighting design and sound design and making sure that what you offer on the stage is presented in a way that it really invites the audience to be part of that experience, which has really always been the thing with jazz. It's been music for dancing, which is, very much an integrative thing. And the process of improvisation on stage really requires feedback from the audience. The musicians thrive on that, and the audience thrives on what we give them. So it works together.
Not to brag or anything, but yesterday we did interview Wynton Marsalis. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes, I might have heard of him. Yeah.
Yes.
Might have heard of him.
He plays the trumpet.
That.
He sure does.
Yes, and it was incredible to hear, him talk. But, something that really stood out to me was that improvisation type.
Yeah.
That there is still this theme within the music and working together, but
Yes.
there is that. When you're booking different artists, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for any groups that have a specific show, essentially. You can think of it almost as entertainment. I mean, this case, it's entertainment that, comes in the vehicle of music. But if you are putting together something that I think reflects Houston to some degree, or the personality of the band in a way that distinguishes them from other bands that are also jazz-oriented. I mean, there's no shortage of great jazz players in town, but I think a lot of those groups do very different things. And I think it's important from a booking perspective to make sure that you're putting on the website essentially a description of something that anyone could read that and say, oh, that's a show I want to go see. And you show up and then the band delivers exactly what you thought, as opposed to like, well, there's a band there, and maybe we're listening and maybe we're not, which is kind of the affliction of a lot of jazz bands. You end up sort of as wallpaper music. This is emphatically not that. You are there to see the show, and the show will deliver.
That's cool.
We're talking to Graeme Francis about the new jazz club, Doc's Houston. At the Tower Theater, I mean, I know exactly where it is, right there on Westheimer and about Montrose. So great location, great parking.
Yes.
So tell us, first of all, I kind of want the nuts and bolts on this. So is it going to be open every evening?
Right now we are playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, so Tuesday through Saturday, 6 p.m. on?
Yeah, 2 shows a night, Fridays and Saturdays. Shows will be 7 and 9:30. Single shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They are at 7:30.
And there will be basically one group there to carry the evening?
That's correct.
And sometimes they'll play for a while, and sometimes maybe just a one and done?
It'll be, so the shows are all 90 minutes in length. So you know exactly how long you're there. I mean, obviously you can stay after.
Right.
Yeah,
hang out, have another delicious drink.
But Frank brought up an interesting point. The Tower Theater has been many things.
It has.
I remember, for me, I remember it as El Real Tex-Mex Cafe, and then it was an Oyster House, and it's been a movie theater.
The Vietnamese restaurant right there.
So does that scare you guys at all? The fact that it has changed, kind of.
Hey, you could turn the Alabama into Trader Joe's. You could do anything at the theater.
That's
Fair
true.
enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's really returning to its roots. It was a theater initially, and I mean, a lot of incredible players played there.
Is it the original stage, or did you build a new
No,
stage?
new stage. But Ella Fitzgerald played there. I mean, people actually know who that is.
Right.
Nobody knows who I am. That's fine. But Ella Fitzgerald's a big deal. So if that was a good enough spot for Ella, then that's a high standard to which we aim.
So will you, obviously, you'll have your club, so you'll have cocktails, kind of bar food.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. We're talking a lot about the music. Talk to us about the food.
It is the full package deal. This is we are bringing back the heyday of the Jazz Supper Club. So this is a full restaurant, really excellent food. It's a full bar, incredible cocktails. and a really great show on
So
stage.
people who might not know what like a jazz supper club is, what is that?
Essentially, the model is that you buy a ticket to see the show, and while you're at the show, you have a really wonderful meal. It's quite that simple.
I'm sure you knew Scott Gertner.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
Yes.
so it's kind of along the lines of
it's the
what
same
he brought.
concept, but this is, I mean, the size is different. Obviously, the scale is different, and the vibe of the place is different. But I mean, yes, it's essentially the same.
I think of Ricky
model.
Ricardo, just like a supper
I
club,
like
and
a
the band's
Coco
playing.
yeah,
Well, that's the idea, and that's a thing that has kind of disappeared since the
has,
70s
no, it
and 80s.
has.
Doesn't really exist anymore. But Doc's place in San Antonio, Jazz Texas, has been incredibly successful with essentially that model now for about 10 years. And so I think there was a real desire to say, why not have another place that also celebrates that incredible entertainment and great food and great drinks? Because what else do you want in a night out? That's pretty ideal, right?
I think there's everything nowadays has become so casual. I also think there's a desire where people want to kind of dress up and have a night out where it feels special and unique.
Well, across the
Nailed
street.
it. Those are the words right there. It's special and unique. Yeah, it's
Well,
incredible.
Drake's is across the
Yep,
street.
it's
I
right
mean,
there.
talk about getting dressed up and waiting 2 hours for a table.
Right. Well, this is the best part. You don't even need to wait for a table for us. When you book your tickets, you'll know exactly where you're sitting. You can decide on the platform, right on the website. It's the slickest thing in the world.
So table for 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever you want.
Exactly.
Oh, that's nice.
And
So what is your website?
DocsHouston.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's not, now tell us about you. You came here
Yes.
to get your master's in percussion.
Yes. The intention was always to be a college professor. I had a really great
We have a
teacher.
lot of those on.
Yeah. I bet you do. And so in order to do that, you really wanted to get a PhD. So I did my master's at SMU, studied with the Dallas Symphony guys, and then did my doctorate at UT Austin, which is where I met Doc Watkins, because he was also doing his doctorate in classical piano, in his case, percussion for me. And we were in the jazz combo for not jazz majors.
Okay.
Because they kind of tend to shunt everybody over to the side.
Like when
It's
you play water polo because you can't dive.
Well, that's the idea. Exactly. And we really hit it off. And we've been playing together for 20 years. I mean, we've done records. We played Carnegie Hall together. We've done a lot of stuff together. He's one of my oldest musical collaborators, and he's a really, really wonderful guy.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Wynton Marsalis. And what is the connection between classical and jazz?
Well, jazz depends largely on two things, the blues and classical music. So without either of those ingredients, you don't get jazz. Jazz grows out of this melting pot in New Orleans in the late 1800s, but a lot of the structure, the musical structure of that music is very much dependent on Western classical music. So, yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of musicians here
Well,
at
even
HPM
when
at
Marsalis
Houston.
brought up Bach and Mendelssohn.
Yes.
So I mean,
he
there really
knows.
is that
Oh,
connection.
he knows.
Yeah,
And
he knows
then
far
he's-
better than me.
He's, Wynton Marsalis is a real traditionalist.
Yes.
I mean, he's a pure,
I would
how
agree.
do you look at jazz?
What's your take?
I mean, jazz has never been one thing, ever. So I think lots of people talk about jazz in a specific way, and maybe they're speaking about bebop or hard bop or fusion or traditional or Western swing or whatever. Those are all things that I quite happily put under a very large jazz umbrella. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have those things featured on our stage.
Why not?
If the point is to give people something that they want to see, which seems like a pretty good business idea.
Yeah, that's a good model. That's a good model.
Then that's absolutely a requirement, And I don't think we need to be prescriptive about what jazz is. That's certainly not our mission.
So Doc's Houston at the Old Tower Theater.
Beautiful.
I know.
And Graeme, what are you most proud of about this?
I think the opportunity to give Houstonians a place to go see Houstonians play. Because jazz in Houston has always been great, and we want to make sure that we don't lose all the great players here because they all go to New York or LA or Chicago. Stay here and play at Doc's.
Graeme Francis is a local jazz drummer and a booker at Doc's Houston. Graeme, thank you for joining us today on Hello
When do
Houston.
y'all open?
Grand opening is this weekend.
Perfect.
Grand opening on Saturday, November 15th, after a soft opening show tonight at 7.
That's right.
And coming up, we'll continue diving into today's top stories. We'll also speak with Noel Cardenas, the CEO of Memorial Hermann Southeast and Pearland Hospitals, who's going to tell us about the time he spent serving our country. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. We'll be back after this break.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Morning Edition takes you across this country and around the world with stories that keep you informed and the context to understand what matters. The news comes at you quickly, but we slow it down to examine each story from different angles and give perspective on what might happen next. A brand new day comes with new possibilities and a new edition of Morning Edition from NPR News.
Morning Edition, weekdays 5 to 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars, bringing you a forecast snowy white with Irving Berlin's Broadway musical White Christmas. On stage at the Hobby Center December 9th through Christmas Eve. Tickets available at tuts.org.
A nice sunny Veterans Day today. We'll get up to 73, low tonight near 57. It's 67, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, President Trump has proposed a 50-year mortgage to address home affordability. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into today's top stories. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also speak with Noel Cardenas, Senior Vice President and CEO of Memorial Hermann Pearland and Southeast Hospitals, who will join us to talk about the time he spent serving our country.
Plus, we'll also learn about a faith-based nonprofit, Amazing Place, and their work empowering families dealing with the challenges of dementia and Alzheimer's.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Taps performed at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery today. President Trump laid a wreath, then delivered remarks in observance of Veterans Day.
To every veteran, we love our veterans. We say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
The U.S. Supreme Court set to rule today on the Trump administration's request that it keep preventing states from resuming full SNAP benefits that help millions of Americans with limited means afford groceries. Trump argues the extra money might be needed elsewhere. Legal disputes over the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program might end if the GOP-led House adopts and President Trump signs legislation that ends the now 42-day government shutdown. However, it's not yet clear if SNAP payments will resume immediately when the government reopens. It's also likely that air travel disruptions will drag out perhaps long after federal agencies are back in business. Here's NPR's Windsor Johnston.
Transportation officials say it won't be as simple as flipping a switch. Thousands of FAA workers still have to clear weeks of inspections and safety backlogs before things run smoothly again. The longer the shutdown drags on, the more the work piles up, forcing airlines to cancel or delay flights even after funding is restored. And it's not just passengers feeling the impact. Cargo carriers like FedEx, UPS, and Amazon are warning of delays during the busiest shopping season of the year. Industry analysts say once freight piles up, it can take weeks to untangle supply chains, leaving retailers and consumers feeling the strain. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington.
A week after outperforming Republicans in a number of key electoral contests, Democrats appear to have scored a legal win in Utah. Martha Harris of member station KUER reports a judge has approved Utah's new congressional map.
The redistricting in Utah was court-ordered. A Utah judge previously ruled the state needed new boundaries, and they had to comply with the state's law banning partisan gerrymandering. The heavily Republican legislature came up with a proposal, but the judge rejected that map in her Monday ruling. That's because she ruled it was, quote, drawn with the purpose to favor Republicans. So she picked another map, one submitted by the plaintiffs in the case. The chosen map creates one district that favors Democrats. That means Democrats could flip a seat in Utah in the 2026 midterms. The state's current House delegation is made up of 4 Republicans. For NPR News, I'm Martha Harris in Salt Lake City.
The Dow is up now 489 points. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Governor Greg Abbott has yet to call a runoff in Texas's 18th congressional district between Democrats Christian Menifee and Amanda Edwards. State and federal election laws require Abbott to call the election between 70 and 77 days after the completion of the official election canvass, according to UH Law Center professor David Frumkin.
The additional delay that we're now experiencing with the runoff, I think, is a further reason to think that the voters would have benefited from calling the special election in May rather than postponing it until November.
Harris County expects to canvass the first round results Thursday. The state election code requires that the runoff take place on a Saturday, which effectively requires the Secretary of State to set the date for January 24th. It's been a week since Texas voters approved Proposition 3, which gives district court judges the discretion to deny bail to people accused of certain violent or sexual offenses. As News 88.7's Sarah Grunow reports, it's still not clear yet how the new law could affect Harris County's efforts to reduce the jail population.
The Harris County jail population has decreased by more than 1,000 inmates since the beginning of this year. County officials say that's because they're trying cases faster and diverting nonviolent offenders into treatment programs. Ashley Blackburn, a criminal justice professor with the University of Houston downtown, says that it's too early, however, to know if judges denying bail more often could result in a larger jail population.
Time is going to tell how long the delays actually are and how many more people will be kind of caught in a situation given the change in the language of the offenses for which offenders could be denied bail.
Harris County has ended one contract to outsource jail inmates to other private detention facilities. The jail population is expected to continue decreasing into next year. I'm Sarah Grunow, News 88.7.
In college basketball, the University of Houston Cougars men's team are the #1 team in the country right now. They jumped up a spot, overtaking Purdue in the AP Top 25. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome
Nice. Welcome back. What's the date?
Today is November 11th, 2025. We are in the full swing, officially, I would say, in holiday season.
Yeah, well, Veterans Day says let's party, right?
Veterans Day, yes. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you so much for those who have served our country. We hope today you get a treat.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Yeah.
And so many people serve in so many different ways. You know, a lot of times it's
Yes.
the spouses of military that do so much behind the scenes, raising kids and
excellent point,
holding down things and making sure when they return that they're welcome and comforted, and it's a lot.
It's
it
a
really
lot.
takes a village these days.
It
doesn't
really
it?
does. Yes.
That was a nice first hour. Someone
Yes.
said, I gotta. Somebody said, I'm demonizing goldenrod.
Good grief, Frank, stop demonizing goldenrod. You are thinking of ragweed, which blooms about the same time.
I'm
and is
not.
most responsible for allergy pollen. Goldenrod should not be planted in every yard. It is rich in pollen and nectar and important important late season food source for bees and other pollinators, migrating hummingbirds, goldfinches, small warblers. Particularly important in Houston. It is also gorgeous in a garden. A Harris County native. Please don't disparage it. We need more, not less. Thanks, Natasha. P.S. Love the show.
Natasha.
Thanks, Natasha.
I am not disparaging it. You know where it's
That's
planted?
funny.
You know where it's planted? All over Buffalo Bayou. And when you take a walk on the trails, you got to be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and I think that there is a lot of us out there feeling a little tickle in our throat, a little.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. We also did get a email about the Houston Food Bank, and they were with some photos saying that the Houston Food Bank lines are out very long right now.
Well, an interesting text. Why, if the GOP wants to make sure people aren't going without food, the president is constantly fighting against giving out SNAP benefits. That's Maurice from Baytown.
Yes, and I found it. Kate Finch sent us this email. It said Houston Food Bank sites are swamped. So, be kind because there's a lot happening out right now.
Another one, let's be clear, the current administration could not care less about the average American. I don't know about that, but everybody has an opinion.
Yes.
Alex says speaking of the Democrats, they caved for a promise of a vote that if passed still has to go to the White House for the president to sign, and we know how that is going to go. I think he's going to sign it.
I think he's backed into a corner where he has to sign it.
I don't think there's any real question that the House will pass it. They're out today because of Veterans Day, as so many things are. A lot of no mail today.
No mail today.
But I think they'll pass it, and I think he'll sign it before Thanksgiving and get that back on track. But then Braden Arnold says the ACA, meaning Obamacare subsidies that the Democrats said were non-negotiable, were not included in the vote to open the government. No, they were not.
Yes.
No, they were not. We're back. And British guy says they gave up their hand, as it were, back to square one.
Back to square one.
Well, let's hope. And now December, the Senate said we'll bring up the ACA subsidies in December. Mike Johnson says, no, we won't. So if Mike Johnson doesn't bring them up, then they're not going to, if he doesn't bring it up, you don't vote on it. We're having a hard enough time getting him to swear in elected officials.
Right.
So this guy's a piece of work.
Sure is.
And he does what he wants to do.
Well, you know what we're going to do?
And he might make a play for president. Wouldn't surprise me.
We are going to jump into the headlines. That's what we're going to do. And to jumpstart the housing market, the Trump administration suggested a 50-year mortgage. Mortgages are generally considered good debt to have. Owning a home and paying a mortgage allows you to build equity, which experts say would slow over the life of a 50-year loan. But there isn't much savings. Okay, so for example,
yes,
of $350,000 loan at 6.2%,
okay,
a 30-year mortgage, monthly payment, principal plus interest of about $2,144 with roughly $422,000 in total interest.
Yeah.
Okay? You got that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That means for your $350,000 house, if you pay it off in 30 years, it's going to cost you $350,000 plus $422,000 in interest.
Right. A 50-year mortgage, monthly payment, principal plus interest of about $1,894 with roughly $787,000 in total interest.
This is the dumbest idea since unsliced bread.
Right. So, I'm sorry. Explain this to me, Anu. So, a 50-year mortgage isn't a new concept either. In 2006, one expert told NBC News that the 50-year mortgage, quote, may be the only way buyers can get into a home, unquote, because many had debt-to-income ratios that prevented them from qualifying for a 30-year mortgage. Still, experts nearly 20 years ago pointed to the same drawbacks: slow building equity, minimal monthly savings, greater interest payments over the life of the loan that opponents are noting today. What do you think of a 50-year mortgage? Good for new home buyers or just another way for banks to make more money? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
Don't do it.
No.
That's my advice. Look at the savings. We just gave you that example: $21.44 a month versus $18.94. So you're talking about $250, $300 a month. Well, if you pay this off, now you have a 50-year-old house that's going to need a new roof and new air conditioning and new water heaters. I mean, the maintenance on a house is a lot of money.
Yes.
The homestead taxes in Texas are a lot of money. That's
homeownership is expensive.
Homeowners is outrageous.
Yes.
So if you take out a 50-year mortgage, I guarantee you're going to find yourself upside down in 2 years.
Right. It puts people in a very risky and vulnerable situation. And I think we need to point out that, we have to highlight President Trump's proposal. It is pretty light on details. But his administration is saying that the 50-year mortgage would lower the monthly payments, and it would simply help more Americans that are currently priced out of the market be able to get into a home,
But it would cost them so much money over the long term.
And the savings are so minimal.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
I don't think so either. We did get a YouTube comment. When someone refinances, doesn't that extend the original mortgage?
Yes. Well, it depends on how long will you finance for.
Refinancing it for.
But you can, you've got to pay off what's there. So when you refinance, it's hard. It depends on whether you're going to pay off what you owe.
To me, this is very simple. Experts after years, this conversation comes up. It is always, obviously, don't do it. Not a good idea. The proof is in the pudding. The numbers.
Yeah.
This is not
you
something
can
that
write off your interest payments, so there's more to write off there. So that can help. But at the end of the day, I've done the numbers. At the end of the day, it's better to own a home outright. If you can't do that, and I couldn't, most people can't, try to get a 15-year mortgage. If that's a little too much, try for a 20. People always say 15, 30, and now 50. You can get a 20-year mortgage. You can get a 25-year mortgage. A bank is in business to loan money. Loan officers are in business to get loans. If you say, this is what I want, this is what I can afford, then make up your own number. I want a 22-and-a-half-year mortgage. They'll make it work for you. They want you to borrow that money. That's how they make it. You don't have to stick with 15 and 30.
I think that the issue that I have here is that for most people that can't afford it right now to get into a 30-year mortgage, they see this and they say, well, that's great. Thank you. You're not in my position, so this is a way for me to get in. But it's a short-term benefit with a very risky long-term impact.
Well, it's going to give you a lower, obviously, about let's say $300 a month less, which could be your car payment. I get that, but it's not going to. You're still going to have to put down probably more down payment. You're going to have to at least put down
a higher percentage,
3%.
Yeah,
but maybe 5%, maybe even more. So
yes,
I don't know. What do you think about it? 713-440-8870.
All right.
If you think it's a good idea, I would love to hear why.
Yes, please give us a
call. Speaking of ridiculous ideas.
Okay.
President Trump has bragged many times about the revenue tariffs that they're bringing in. All the money paid by American businesses who pass some of the costs on to consumers. Over the weekend, Trump pushed the idea of paying some of that money back to Americans in the form of $2,000 payments. The idea is in no way a detailed proposal, but what Trump has said about it presents multiple steep challenges for the administration. The plan may cost far more than Trump is saying. Trump's rhetoric around tariff revenue may undermine his administration's pro-tariff arguments at the Supreme Court. And in addition, his administration is already saying that the plan won't even involve direct payments to taxpayers, even while Trump continues to push that notion. I don't know, maybe some kind of tax credit or something. Yeah. Trump summarized much of what he said about his tariff rebate plan, speaking with reporters on Monday. Quote, "We're going to issue a dividend to our middle-income people and lower-income people of about $2,000, and we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt." Details are scant. Budget experts are already saying it's not going to work. What are your thoughts on that? A $2,000 dividend, 713-440-8870. What did everybody do with the $5,000 that Elon Musk said Doge savings was going to provide? Every American was going to get $5,000 because of Doge savings.
There's a lot said.
Of lies going on around
but many saying it. I don't even know what to say because I recently heard this term, Frank. Trump derangement syndrome. That we don't want to have Trump derangement syndrome. And so
TDS.
TDS. I just recently learned what that term means.
Oh, what does it mean?
It means that anything that President Trump does, we just automatically hate it. And it's tough, right? Because we had our first headline looking at this, and now we look at this new headline. And it's tough because it is one of those things. Our president is in so many things and making so many moves at such a quick rate that I don't even know what to think about this.
Well, I don't hate everything he does.
Oh, I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying that I heard of this new...
The Trump derangement syndrome? Because you automatically think whatever he says, he's deranged.
Well,
to
I
say
think
it.
that people have to understand that he does things that there's so much to comment on, you know?
Well, it's like a shotgun. There's so
Yes.
many pellets coming at you, you don't know how to react.
That's the way I've come to this
And that's why people get stressed out.
That's why people
when
get
you
stressed
think
out.
about your life, you can stress out because the kids got to get to school and you've got to mow the yard this weekend and you've got grandmother's party's coming up.
Yes.
You got to take care of that. You
Grandmother's
got to get a car,
party?
whatever. Well, you probably have a grandmother. I haven't had one in a long
I
time.
thought my party's coming up.
Your party's coming up. I still haven't bought you a card. I've got to worry about, whenever you start thinking about your errand list, you get stressed out. Think about when you add everything the country's boom, 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 you start to think, oh my gosh, I just want my world at peace.
Yes.
And you create
a
all
lot.
this chaos, it's hard to negotiate just where your world is.
Right. And you know what? We want to know your thoughts on a $2,000 dividend, Frank. That was your original question. And we have a call from Dale from Sugarland on the line. Dale, welcome to Hello Houston.
Howdy.
Hey.
Give us what are your thoughts?
I can't imagine a more inflationary way to attempt to steal money from small businesses and give it to somebody and say it's a Trump check.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about the $2,000?
From the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, what causes inflation is putting too much money in the economy. So now you're going to take $2,000 and send it to, I don't know, 100 million people?
It costs about $500 billion to send it to $2,000 to every adult and $1,000 to every kid is $500 billion.
Well, he's saying it would be low and moderate income, and I'm assuming he means adults at that. But that's going to be 200 million people, right? I mean,
and $2,000 would be $300 billion.
Yeah, so we're just going to put that kind of money in the economy that no one has earned. Now, you're absolutely right. There's nothing more inflationary. It's ridiculous.
Which will give us inflation.
Yeah.
Just like during COVID.
Correct.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right, Dale.
So
thank you.
Dale, just a quick question. So your thoughts on this is no, not a good idea.
Absolutely not.
I agree with you, Dale. We have another call this is from John in Jersey Village. Hello, John from Jersey Village. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Love your show. Real quick, look, the $2,000 is an insult. It's not going to make a dent in most people's, debt load and whatnot. And look, I'm embarrassed to say this. I voted for Trump, and going forward, I think I'm just not going to vote. Because here's the problem. This is what I want to get your thoughts on. I feel like that as a country, we need to take drastic measures that, unfortunately, if a politician were to say, hey, guys, this is what we really need to do, it's not going to be popular, and they're never going to get voted. So honestly, I blame us as citizens. We have a debt load that it's concerning. Why are we spending more than the next 10 countries combined on our military that happen to be our allies when we can put that money towards other more important things? Why? Because it's sexy to say that, hey, guys, we're going to spend billions of dollars so we can bomb other countries that most Americans can't find on a map. I mean, our priorities are so warped, but unfortunately, the American voter is stupid, and they're going to listen to these dumb politicians. And so we're in this catch-22 doom cycle, and nothing gets done. So just curious to get your thoughts on that.
Well, John, were you voting for Trump or against Harris?
So that's a good point. It was mostly against Harris, but at this point, it's like, do I want to saw my arm off or shoot my leg off?
Yeah, I get it. Well, so if we could get some fresh voices, some young, fresh, either Democrat or Republican voices that were more in line with common sense, would that attract your vote?
Absolutely. And look, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican, but it doesn't mean that I am heartless. Like, yes, kids should be able to get fed at school. make it free for everybody. It doesn't matter if your kid is comes from a wealthy family or you live in the projects or something. Everybody has a chance. You don't want the free breakfast? That's fine. But if you do, hey, no problem. Here you go. And it's not that expensive. Plus, it helps farmers as far as I'm concerned.
I think a lot of people who agree with Republican economics the way they used to be.
Yes. And John, I do want to encourage you to essentially, if you are feeling, just like I'm not going to vote, I do encourage you to continue to vote. And I would encourage you to look into your local, very local elected officials and start there and start talking to them, because there is power in our local officials and telling them how you feel. And I really hope that you will vote. You will not.
Look at it this way. If school boards stand up to the Texas legislature and say, you can sue us all you want, we're not going to put the 10 Commandments for these many reasons in our classrooms. School boards got to step up. They can't say, oh, well, it's just the law and I had to do it. It's like that woman from Metro who painted over the Montrose crosswalk. Well, it was a mandate. I had to do it. Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah. And again, 713-440-8870. We want to thank everybody who's been calling into Hello Houston. We have been receiving quite a few YouTube comments as well as text. We received a text who says, I have Trump derangement syndrome from people with Trump delusional syndrome. So there you go. We also received a YouTube comment that says, I do not think the 50-year mortgage is a good idea. The total interest paid out over the life of the loan will be huge. That is money that could have been invested in retirement plans.
Absolutely. Take that extra money if you can find it, and just put it away in a 401k and let it grow.
Yes.
Or a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
It can happen.
It can happen. And coming up on Hello Houston, Noel Cardenas, Senior Vice President and CEO of Memorial Hermann Pearland and Southeast Hospitals, will join us to talk about his time that he spent serving our country. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
For many child stars, becoming an adult is a sort of disappearing act.
Child actors never really grow up, or having grown up once, like a forced flower, they tend to stay the age they were when their career ended.
The life cycle of child stars and why we won't allow them to grow up. That's next time on Think.
You can listen to Think. It's coming up tonight at 10 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science. Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages. More information at genpro.com. or by calling 713-597-3521.
Support comes from the Welcome Group and Welcome Wilson Jr., President and CEO, with over 9 million square feet of manufacturing and industrial facilities in over 130 locations in Texas and the Southeast. More at welcomegroup.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
As we honor Veterans Day, we often think of those who served on the front lines, but behind every mission were people whose duty was to care for the wounded. Mm-hmm. Noel Cardenas, Senior Vice President and CEO of Memorial Hermann Pearland and Southeast Hospitals, was one of those people. He served more than 30 years in the U.S. Army, leading medical teams across the world before transitioning to civilian health care, where he now serves and sees over 2 major hospitals in the Memorial Hermann healthcare system. Welcome, Noel Cardenas, to Hello Houston. This, from what I was reading, almost sounds like MASH units on a hugely broad scale.
It was. So going back to 2003 when I had that mission, so
at the time before, going to Iraq, I was actually stationed at Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. And at that time, that's when 9/11 happened. So we knew things, we knew life wasn't going to be the same. And so a year and a half later, I was assigned to the 21st Combat Support Hospital there at Fort Hood, where I was assigned as the executive officer, basically the second in command of the hospital. And then early in 2003, we got a deployment order to go to Iraq because we knew what was going to be happening over there. And so we deployed the unit out of Fort Hood and basically moved all our equipment down here to Beaumont and put it on ships, and then went across to Kuwait, pulled it off the ships, and then a couple of weeks later, we had the mission. And it was originally it was one hospital, but we had the ability to split the hospital into two locations.
So from what I read, I mean, you had everything a hospital has just under big tents.
It was all tentage. And so when we started setting up the hospital, when we got that mission, I had the one in north of Baghdad. My commander had the one north in Mosul. So we split the hospital into two locations. So I had the 164-bed hospital that was located in Balad initially. And so we started setting up the hospital. We moved all our equipment up there and started setting up on a Friday morning. And by Sunday night, we started taking casualties. We had our first soldier that came in that night.
And so, Noel, how did you go from being in the medical field to then serving in the Army? How did that happen? Talk to us about your story.
So really, my story started at a young age. I always had a desire to go into healthcare originally. I felt, I wanted a passion to go into medicine as a physician. And then going into college, and then I got this something happened, right? Something about the military. I heard a speaker when I was in high school that spoke, and then into college, I ran into somebody who was wearing a military uniform, and I asked him what was the uniform about, and he said, "Well, I'm in the ROTC program." And then he shared with me that the ROTC program could provide an education, and so to pay for my education, I get a scholarship. So ran off to Fort Knox that summer, got a scholarship, and then I was able to finish my degree at Texas. And then I had to make the decision as to whether to go into the reserves or go into the active component. And at the time, I was still contemplating, going to medical school. But I said, well, let me go in the Army first, and then I can then transition and go to medical school after, a couple of years into it. Well, got into the military, loved the Army so much, loved leadership. And I was always part of the Army Medical Department. So I was, at the time when I was commissioned as a lieutenant, I was commissioned in the Medical Service Corps. So that's the administrative side of Army medicine. So started off as a medical logistician. And then a few years later, about 6 years into the Army, the Army paid for me to get my master's, an MHA, Master's in Health Administration from Baylor. And that's when I went into a different route and went into hospital administration.
So an administrator as opposed to a physician.
As opposed to a physician. So where I really fell in love with the Army was the leadership opportunities, right?
Sure.
Leading soldiers and also, when I had finished my master's program in healthcare administration, I found a new passion. I found leading hospitals was where I wanted to actually be.
Well, we were talking a little bit about, we were honoring veterans, but it really is so many behind the scenes people in addition to those who served on front lines. Yes. So did your hospital operate on a triage basis?
We did. So, initially, we would get soldiers in, and our primary mission was to stabilize. We either stabilized soldiers enough so that they could be transported back via, we had aircraft that would come in from the Air Force that would evac our patients back either to Germany or to the United States for their continuous rehab. In some cases, I still remember the first soldier that sustained an amputation. And one of the things that when I left Iraq that first time, I always wondered what happened to them, after they came back to the United States. And I had that ability to see that later on in a follow-on assignment when I was assigned to Brooke Army Medical Center, and I had the opportunity to see the Center for the Intrepid where our soldiers rehabbed. And we took soldiers that lost limbs and were able to get right back up on their feet with prosthetics, and then in some cases putting them right back into the service. So they wanted to continue to serve, and they could do that with prosthetic limbs.
Wow. And I was reading a little bit about yourself. I mean, you retired over 40 years of military service, at the rank of a colonel. Mm-hmm. And during these times, you were transitioning, were going to combat and you would come back to civilian. Talk to us a little bit about those moments when you're transitioning. Like you said, you're seeing some of the worst things happening, mm-hmm. and then you're coming home.
Yes, so it was there were times when it was difficult coming back, right? Because you would have to then integrate yourself back into home. But the military did a great job reintegrating us back. We also knew there was kind of the honeymoon period when we'd get back and things would get a little rough. But we always knew that we had that the military, and especially the services that were provided to us, had our back. So I could also see it in some of my soldiers that were struggling. And so we knew that they had the services, to help them, those that were struggling with PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Give me an idea of how large these operations were. When we say you opened a hospital under a tent, we're talking about a lot bigger than MASH in the TV show.
Yeah. It was. So it was actually when we first built the hospital in those 3 days, that was just the initial phase. So basically we had our emergency room set up. We had the pharmacy, the lab, the x-ray, and all that. And then we also had a couple of operating rooms at the end of that, at the very end of that line, because we called it the main line, because it was ER, all the support that went with it, and then those operating rooms. Then to the side of that, we would build then the intensive care units, the intermediate care units, and then we'd have even medical surgical tonnage where we would move soldiers, right? So after surgery, once we were able to stabilize them enough, then we would then call in the aircraft to come in and get them. And so we had an Air Force unit that was assigned with us that would coordinate that transport back to the States or to Germany for their rehab.
Wow.
So how many soldiers you think on a monthly basis?
I mean, it varied, right? When we first got in, it was slow, right? When we, March, it was April of 2003. We got into May, June, and then July is when it kind of really picked up. That's when things really started to heat up in Iraq more so because of the things that happened. And then after that, it got busier. Some days we had light, a couple of casualties that would come in. There were other days when we dealt with situations that we would know as mass casualties, where we'd have several soldiers. I still remember we had an incident where a Chinook helicopter went down, and we took several casualties from that. And, I couldn't remember the exact number, but it was, enough it can overwhelm you. But when you go through that triage system, you identify those soldiers right off the bat that need to get the care immediately to be able to save their lives. And then there's others that that regardless of what you do for them, it's not going to make a difference, right? So that's the hardest part. And, that's a lot of stress that you add on people to be able to make that decision. But in a combat area, you have to be able to decide and make those decisions on who best, right, that you can provide that care to be able to save their lives.
Yeah, wow. That's the triage part.
So over the course of time, the hospital continued to grow. We fortified it. We provided protection for us. There were times when we did come under attack.
The hospital came under attack.
Several times, because we had a lot of indirect mortar fire, what they call, so we would get, some of those. Most of them never came close, but I still remember an incident, and it was actually July 4th, where we had what was known as a forward surgical team, which was attached to our hospital. So it was a 20-person, 20-soldier team that included surgeons and anesthesia and surgical techs and nurses. And they were outside our perimeter, and that night they got hit with a mortar. We didn't lose any of them, but we were able to. We had to evacuate most of them back to the States for their care. But we actually lost that unit, as a whole, because they just couldn't continue on because of the number of people that they lost that night.
I mean, I would imagine, given hearing your story, that this was a calling for you to be out there, and it would take a very unique type person to be able to do that. What were some of the skills that you felt that you learned during those times that now today, sitting here as the Senior Vice President and CEO of Memorial Hermann, Pearland and Southeast Hospitals, have transferred? I mean, the way of the level-headedness in major stress moments.
Yeah. For me, it's always been about people, right? And so in the military, we took care of our own, right? We had, and that was the one thing that I learned about the military is it was a brother and a sisterhood. Yeah. And so we realized, and one of the best advice I ever got from a leader was take care of your people and they'll in return will take care of you. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've continued to carry on after I transitioned from the military into Memorial Hermann was take care of those that you work for. Because I always tell my staff, I work for you. It's not the other way around because I'm here to support you. And so it was really those people skills, right? Having that ability to listen and, obviously allow people to do their job. But at the same time, the other part of the military was accountability, right? Holding people accountable to where you need them to perform at that top level. And that was an expectation of the military, right? When you think of a mission like that, there was a high expectation that we were to establish that hospital, provide that high quality care in a combat zone. and to do it and to be able to save as many lives. And so for me, like coming back here and being a part of Memorial Hermann, we've had, a lot of different events that have happened here in Houston, between flooding and hurricanes and weather events and other situations, right? We know things happen. That the military gave me that ability, that skill set to be able to manage in those types of situations. But the biggest part of it that I learned in my military time was to always stay calm, because I always know as a leader, I always tell everybody, a leader, you're like a goldfish in a fishbowl, right? All your eyes are on you, and so people are watching you, and right, so they feed off of that. So as a leader, I've learned that people have to watch you, observe you, but if you stay calm, then the entire team stays calm.
My friend Bill Baessa, who was a proud Marine, will tell you that everyone who's ever served will tell you that they were proud to serve. I'm sure you witnessed that a lot. And I get the sense that it absolutely comes from you too.
It was, when I made the decision to do this, even though it was against my parents' wishes, and I shared this story when I went home and told my parents I was thinking about this. They were like, well, this is a bad idea for you to go do this. And I said, okay. And then I came back a day later and said, oh, by the way, I signed up to do it. And so they were a little upset. But, over the course of time, my parents realized what it did for me as, going into college. It paid my education, but more so the Army gave me, a skill set and really where I was meant to be. So much so that my younger brother also joined. And he also
really
retired as an Army colonel as well.
Really? And what does your brother do now?
So he actually works cybersecurity. So he was a military intelligence officer, didn't go into the medical field. And so he's now retired as well and lives out in Florida.
Showing this just pride, talk to us a little bit more. Tell some stories that you're very proud of. And I'm sure it's somewhat emotional, I would imagine.
There was a number of different assignments. I mean, I moved my family. We moved every 2 to 3 years. I tell everybody in the time I was in the military, we moved 17 times. Wow. So my kids were resilient. They understood how to move. We'd get somewhere, and before you know it, they'd be asking, right, where are we moving to next? But, going back to your question, go back into...
Yeah, what are you most proud of? Some of the
highlights? Things that I'm most proud of, I think more than anything, one of the things that I learned in the military was, when you get somewhere, you only have so much time. Some of those assignments were, like I said, were 2 to 3 years. So I always had this philosophy of leave things better than you found them, right? So I always, anytime I had an assignment, and, the Combat Support Hospital was one of those opportunities in 2003. I went back to Iraq 4 years later and had an opportunity. I got selected for battalion command, which was really a very small percentage of people get that opportunity. But when I went back to Iraq, I was actually a task force commander. So I had soldiers in 43 different locations spread out throughout the country. And we were running all the primary care, dental, optometry, and ground evacuation missions. And one of the things that I always told people was to take pride in what you do. So one of the things is when I went around and evaluated all of my clinics, I saw there was a level that needed to be raised up, right? Let's put some pride in this. Let's clean these clinics up. Let's make them just as if we were operating back home, right? There's sand everywhere. But it doesn't. I used to tell everybody, just because we live in the desert doesn't mean we have to work in the desert, right? So they would actually. And then we added quality measures and other things. So I would take that experience that I had as a hospital administrator and putting that into a combat zone and raising that bar high. I think one of the other things that I was really most proud of when I came out of that assignment, that second tour in Iraq, I went back to Germany, had to put all my units back together because they had been sent off. Some had been assigned to other units, and bringing them all together, and then getting reassigned from that job to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. And when I was there for 3 years, which was 2010 to 2013, one of the things that we had was there was a base realignment decision where we had 2 level 1 trauma centers in San Antonio, where the Air Force had theirs and the Army had ours at Brooke Army Medical Center. We had to integrate those into one location. And so part of that was major construction. There was $3.2 billion in construction that I was had the oversight of, plus integrating all these programs into one big major medical center, which is actually the Department of Defense's largest hospital now. But bringing in the Army and the Air Force together was not easy, right? No. So again, using that calm leadership, right? We got to do this together as a team two cultures, which I quickly found out the Air Force and the Army were very different.
They are all the branches are
they're very different. We each have our own unique culture.
Not just football.
Right, it's not just football. But, those 3 years were probably the most professionally rewarding for me, personally as well. But it was also hard because there were some really long days in those 3 years. But in the end, we brought it all together, and even to today, they're still providing care in San Antonio. They do half the trauma to the community there, as part of their mission.
I was going to say, it sounds like you did it right. Are they still doing it right? I guess the answer is yes.
Yes, they are.
That's great.
And I think that was one, and then I think it ultimately was my last assignment. So when I came out of my master's program in 1997, I had a fellowship at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, at the hospital there. That's where I took what I learned during the didactic part of my education, and then now I put it into practice and had to learn, and then obviously finish my degree. So I did my fellowship there, and I left there after transitioning my career into healthcare administration in 2 different jobs after that, and then to have the opportunity to go back there in 2013, to go from being a student and a fellow to actually now being the commander and the CEO of the hospital.
Wow.
And to lead that hospital for the last 2 years of my career, which one of the things that I always had, that I wanted to do was to leave, the military on a high. And I thought, why not leave in that situation? So I still could have served another couple of years, but at that point, for family reasons, it was the right decision to make.
Sure.
And then to be able to land here in Houston with Memorial Hermann, after a military career, and to be now with Memorial Hermann for the last decade in 2 different roles. I first came in and was the chief operating officer up at the Northeast Hospital for 5 years. And then in 2020, during the heat of that second COVID surge, then transitioning over to CEO of 2 hospitals for Memorial Hermann.
Wow.
We needed your calm voice then for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your service. We've had a lot of comments saying the same thing.
Yes, thank you so much for your sacrifice and service. And we did also have one comment that says, for Veterans Day, I would ask people to remember Gold Star families. Those are the people who lost loved ones in any kind of military action. That was Jim from Galveston. And Noel Cardenas is the Senior Vice President and CEO of Memorial Hermann Pearland and Southeast Hospitals. Noel, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you
for having me come out to share my story.
Absolutely. And coming up, we're going to highlight the care provided at Amazing Place. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
You can hear 1A. It is coming up today at 2 o'clock.
This is Eric Glass. On This American Life, we like stories that surprise you. For instance, imagine finding a new hobby and realizing
to do this hobby right, according to the ways of the masters, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have to bend the law to get the materials that you need.
If not break it.
Yeah, to break international laws.
Real life stories, really good ones, every week.
It's on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from the Houston Ballet, presenting Stanton Welch's The Nutcracker. The holiday tradition returns to the Wortham Theater next Friday. Tickets available at houstonballet.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Drexel University, whose cooperative education program positions students to explore future careers and discover their passions before graduation. More about experiential education at drexel.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
Amazing Place is a faith-based nonprofit dedicated to empowering the lives of families dealing with the challenges of dementia and Alzheimer's. Established in 1996, the nonprofit annually serves more than 6,800 individuals through its programs, which encourage active and independent lifestyles, as well as caregiver education and community outreach. To tell us more about their work, we're joined by Arlene Schollaert, a licensed clinical social worker and the family service director at Amazing Place.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for joining
both
us,
for
Arlene.
having
Welcome.
me. I'm excited to
Amazing
be
Places. I read all about it. My mother had dementia, as did many people in my family. And what I saw more than anything is that whether it's just for one day a week or 5 days a week, you're there to give caregivers a little respite.
Yes.
Which is so important.
Yes, absolutely.
As much as we loved those spouses, brothers, sisters, moms, dads that have dementia, it's hard.
Very hard. Very, very hard. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It is a marathon.
Right? So, care partners need to sustain themselves for the journey, right? And we do that at Amazing Place in a number of different ways. We support both individuals who have cognitive impairments as well as their families. So we look at two equal sides of the equation at the end of the day, right? We're serving people who are diagnosed, and on the other equal side of the equation are their care partners. And we do that at Amazing Place in a number of different ways. So we have very exciting news. We have our Amazing Place Central, but we just opened up our Amazing Place, our second location in Katy. So yes, we did. It's a wonderful facility. We're excited to be out and serving West Houston. So there's exciting changes happening.
Well, I know exactly where your main place is. It's right there off Richmond. Behind the Houston Urology Center.
That's exactly right. That's exactly where we are.
Yes, I've seen it so many times that I you know what? I thought it was a daycare. I'll be honest with you. I would see Amazing. That sounds to me
for children.
Yeah, I would see that, and then I learned about it. I probably could have used it in the day because I brought my mom here after my dad died. But I mean, I know a lot of people that need this kind of help.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the day program, so let me share a little bit how we serve. So we have the day program for people in the mild to moderate stages of dementia. We also have cognitive stimulation therapy, which is for people who are in the just recently diagnosed, that they can come and take part of that CST program. We offer incredible support for caregivers, both in the way of education, care navigation, counseling, support groups, both in English and in Spanish. And we offer brain health education as well. So that's the third component of what we do. So, we don't only serve people and families who are facing the challenges of dementia, but those of us who are getting older. And, we want to keep our brain healthy. We actually have staff that are trained and certified in teaching brain health education. How do you keep your memory sharp, things like that. And those are for people that are not experiencing any cognitive changes right now. So that's another.
What are some simple, basic things that, if as an adult, I myself could do when it comes to like brain health and things like that? I mean, what's a good example of something?
So what we know is that 45% of dementia is preventable by lifestyle choices.
Wow.
Meaning more exercise, better eating, less alcohol.
Yes. Education plays in, seeing your doctor regularly, exercise, keeping your brain active.
Do a lot of Wordle.
Do a lot of Wordle. I refer, our day program, when folks come in and tour, I refer to us as a brain gym because that's nice. Really what we are. And I tell folks, at the end of the day, when you start to become a little older and, you go to the doctor, they ask you, what are you doing to stay socially, emotionally, cognitively, and physically engaged? And that's what we do at Amazing Place is I tell folks, this is the place you come to keep the pistons in your brain firing.
So you have someone in your life that could benefit. You could drop them off one day a week, or as many as 5 days a week.
Absolutely.
From 7:30 in the morning until 6.
That's exactly right.
Which is nice because maybe you just need a day every week to go to the dentist to get your errands done.
Yes.
You just need a little alone time.
Yes.
So I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but I guess it ranges from about $600 a month to $2,300 a month, depending on how often.
Yeah.
But it's on your website.
Yes, all of that is on the website, and we absolutely we serve veterans, so we have a contract with the Veterans Administration, and also supported by the Area Agency on Aging, as well as we have a scholarship program as well.
Is any of it covered by Medicare or other insurance?
If people have private long-term care insurance, then that will cover. Unfortunately, Medicare does not.
You know, when we talk about independent lifestyle, what does that mean, you know, for somebody, for a family member that might have dementia or Alzheimer's?
So independent lifestyle, what we're trying to do, naturally families and caregivers, care partners, they really would like to take care of their loved one at home as long as they possibly can, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes not every day.
Sometimes not every day, that's right. So at the end of the day, we look at the day center as providing respite, but at the same time, it's providing that necessary social, emotional, cognitive, and physical stimulation that folks need as they work through this dementia process, right? So our goal always is to keep this dementia at bay as long as we possibly can, to keep things even as long as we possibly can. It's a progressive disease, but, you know, at Amazing Place, we really focused, our program team, the day program team is wonderful at very specifically designing the programs to hit certain parts of the brain during course of the day. You know, we operate in blocks of time at the day program. So in each block of time, there are 3 or 4 choices of activities to choose from. Could be a cognitive brain game. It could be an exercise activity. It could be a reminiscing activity. It could be, you know, a music activity. And those participants get to choose which one they want to go to. After that, you know, after that a segment of time, which is 45 minutes to an hour, there's a transition, another block of time, and 3 or 4 different choices of activities to choose from.
And a great lunch.
And a fabulous lunch.
So
we love to talk about food here.
I know, right? You don't diagnose. I assume
No.
that do you work in concert with someone's physician?
Yes.
And actually talk to that person?
Absolutely. So the process of joining the day program, every individual has to go, prospective participant needs to come in for an assessment.
Right.
So we meet with their family. I do a psychosocial part of that assessment. The prospective participant meets with nursing. We do a short cognitive assessment. They get to participate in program. We see how they do in program. And then once after that 2-hour assessment is done, we really see if our program meets their needs. You know, it's not about them fitting into us. The whole assessment process is really related to that family leaving with resources for themselves, for their loved one, whether they're in, you know, the mild to moderate stages. If they're a little too far progressed for our program, they're leaving with incredible resources on what to do next, and all of the services that we offer that they can still participate in as the caregiver.
Would you say that there's a certain age, and I know that this might get to, you know, diagnosing, but is there a certain age somebody could hit that they feel like, okay, I'm 74 and I haven't had dementia or anything like that, I should be in the clear? Or do you think that everybody at any age should be always kind of thinking about that?
It's important to think about it because as we age, our brain ages as well, right? So by the time everyone turns 85, 1 in 3 people have some sort of dementia. So yeah, we need to keep it in the forefront, you know, all the time, actually, and start young. You know, really start young.
So not to be a name dropper, but I understand you've helped with Bruce Willis's family.
Yes.
Tell us about that very quickly.
So
what you can.
So actually, I met Emma Willis at the Association for Frontal Temporal Degeneration conference. It's held once a year, and in May 2024, it was in Houston. I was a presenter at the conference. I did a breakout session in the afternoon, which was focused on caregivers' ability to take care of themselves and what the service roadblocks are, as well as their own emotional roadblocks. She attended the session, and then we spoke for a few minutes after the session. And about 3 or 4 months later, she reached out to me and said she was, writing a book. Now we know is The Unexpected Journey, about, her journey and Bruce's journey and her family's journey related to his frontal temporal degeneration. Primary progressive aphasia is what he has. She asked me to contribute, which we said, of course, we would love to contribute. And it came out September 9th. It is a wonderful resource for families. Our caregivers, people that I've counseled, have used it. I've used it in therapy sessions. Highly recommend it. It's really a book that is good for anybody with any type of dementia, caring for anybody with any type of dementia.
Arlene, we got to wrap it up. Amazing place.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to have you in Houston, which that really was my point.
Yes.
It's a fabulous place to help with families that have
Well, please look us up, amazingplace.org.
It's not a daycare for kids.
It's not. It's a brain gym. It's
a
absolutely
brain
a brain gym
for adults.
Thank
and
you
that
so much.
brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We'll also speak with a representative from the Houston Police Officers Union who's going to tell us about their offer to recruit NYPD officers. It's going to be an interesting conversation. You're not going to want to miss out. This is News 88.7. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Join us for Hello Houston, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., taking a deep dive into the stories that matter to Houstonians, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained with a